The primary purpose of the piece of software called Google Analytics is to get you to buy more Google advertising. Don't be fooled. This is not your data. This is their data that they are showing to you. All the numbers will tell you what happened. None of the numbers will tell you why.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the eCommerce Traffic and Conversion Podcast. I'm Scott Brandley and I'm here with my co-host DJ Sprague and our special guest today, Jim Sterne. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Honor to be here.
Yeah, Jim is he's a special, guy to me because we're both UCSB graduates, gauchos from Santa Barbara. But more than that, Jim is a real thought leader, godfather, if you will, web analytics, attribution. He's written many books on the subject. He sold business computers to companies that never owned one in the 1980s, so a real pioneer in the digital space. He then consulted and keynoted about online marketing in the 1990s, founded the Marketing Analytics Summit in 2002, which is still going on, and co-founded the Digital Analytics Association in 2004. His 12th book, Artificial Intelligence for Marketing, Practical Applications, was published in 2017, so kind of ahead of his time. Yeah. Advises companies on analytics, strategy, planning, and teaches marketers the ins and outs of machine learning and generative AI. His most popular workshops these days are creating a generative AI adoption roadmap and generative AI as a strategic power tool. It's a lot of stuff for one guy, a lot of highly intelligent stuff.
That's the nicest way of calling me old I've ever heard.
I would say an old nerd.
Old nerd.
There we go.
As you were selling computers, I was selling copiers, by the way. So we kind of have a little bit in common there. I was with Kodak. What company were you with in the 80s?
Oh, well, local companies to do local service, but we sold IBM System 34s.
Okay. So Kodak bought the IBM copier division, and I think it was 89. And so Kodak was selling both IBM copiers and Kodak copiers, and that's what I was doing. So we're both kind of weird that way, but good for you. So let's talk about you.
Well, I guess let's start. How did you get into web analytics?
When I first saw the internet in 1993, when Mosaic came out, I was thrilled at the possibility and disgusted by what I saw because the user interface was just horrendous. I'm all about customer centricity. I started out in customer service. I moved into sales. I moved into marketing. And it's always been, what are the needs and wants of the customer? And when I saw the potential of the internet and what it could do, but nobody was doing it, I was so frustrated that was the flag that I waved on keynoting. I look at this website and how horrible, all I want to do is fill in the blank and look at how many buttons I have to click and look how easy it is to get lost and look at the error messages. And I would get clients that way because they'd come up out of the audience and say, hey, can you come into the company and explain that to my boss? And then in 1998, came across a company called NetGenesis, a company that made something called web analytics. And I was completely and immediately intrigued because it wasn't just my opinion that your website sucks. We can measure how bad it is. And then we can measure how much it's been improved. So I got very excited about that and decided to start a conference, write a book, start a conference, start a professional association. It's like, let's measure this stuff. That led to learning more about statistics than I wanted to, but that opened my eyes to then later on machine learning. And that's what my artificial intelligence book was about. And now to generative AI. So the thread from selling Apple IIe's in a retail store all the way through to generative AI, it's pretty much a straight line.
That's fascinating how that's kind of evolved through your career too. Just watching where you started from and to where technology is today. It's just incredible.
So first of all, I describe myself as a professional explainer. It's like, let me understand this technology well enough so I can explain to others what it's actually doing and how it can help them. That's called sales and marketing. but I've been fascinated by what's just over the horizon technically. And then it's about choosing what horse to ride. Let's see, quantum computing, a little too soon. I'm not seeing a grand vision yet. It's going to allow us to do things beyond imagination. But generative AI, oh yeah, I can see where that's going. And could I see where personal computers were going? Yeah, that was very straightforward. So the classic joke is a consultant only needs to be one page ahead of the client in order to tell the client what's on the next page. I'm looking over the horizon saying, oh my God, it's 1996. You should be on the internet. Oh my God, it's 1999. You should be doing analytics. Oh my God, it's 2017. You should be doing machine learning. And of course, today, like everybody, I'm an expert in generative AI.
Love it.
So you went from observing a terrible user experience to quantifying it, measuring it, reporting on it, improving it. And then the next level, how do we go to, AI to basically streamline and make things more efficient?
Traditional AI, machine learning, makes things more efficient. And now generative AI does two things. Yes, it can generate lots of stuff, save me lots of time. It can also automate processes, which is terrific. But then it's got this other thing going on, which is the creativity. That's why I call it a strategic toolkit. It's a different kind of computing than we're used to. And it's very exciting.
So what's one book? I know you've written many, but what do you think is the one book that an e-commerce executive should read of yours?
The very first book was World Wide Web of Marketing. And I think that one is a good place to start because it was full of things that weren't available yet, but the philosophy of why they should be. Customer centricity, full stop. After that, yes, there's advertising online and customer service online and email marketing. And yes, I did a book on social media metrics, but today's e-commerce person really should read the now 7-year-old book, 7 years of artificial intelligence for marketing practical applications to understand the technology. Back when I was trying to explain the vision of the World Wide Web, I had to explain packet switching to people. They understood the phone and they understood broadcast, but this many-to-many thing was so new. I said, look, here's how packet switching is different from broadcast and phone. And on top of that, we have this user interface. And on top of that, we have interactivity. And on top of that, we have user experience. And now let me tell you what is going to happen in the future. I think my artificial intelligence for marketing book sets the groundwork for why generative AI works the way it does. And that is probably the best place to start for.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Get a good foundational understanding of the concepts, the technology, what it can do, where it's going. Makes a lot of sense. I'm going to read that myself. Next quick question. So what are the most important things an e-commerce store should be doing regarding GA4 and managing their business through data analytics?
The most important thing about GA4 is understanding why you have it. Google Analytics in the beginning, well, it's free. So great, let's use it. And then you go to the homepage of Google Analytics and says, here are your numbers. Well, these must be the important numbers, right? But no, they're the generic numbers. They're absolutely nothing to do with your business. They're just what Google imagines everybody wants to see. And then you have to start clicking around and looking through menus and slicing and dicing to figure out what you're looking at. When we moved from Universal to GA4, it was this fabulous opportunity that a handful of people actually took advantage of, which is reframing how we think about analytics. Instead of let's just capture every little thing we can and try to sew it together, stop, take a step back, identify the events that you want to track. What's the first page they show up on? What do they click on? How far do they scroll? Did they put something in the shopping cart? Not absolutely everything you can, but what do you need? So that is a strategic question. When I first started consulting, people said, well, what should we put on our website? And I said, well, that depends. What are you trying to accomplish? And shockingly, that became a conversation about business model. What are we trying to tell people? Oh, it's a brochure. No, it's more than that. Well, we should have this on it. No, we should have that on it because we're trying to accomplish these things. No, we're trying to accomplish those things. And it would be an argument. Fast forward, Jim, what should we measure on our website? Well, I don't know. What are you trying to accomplish? Same conversation. So now with implementing GA4, most people did, oh my God, GA3 is going away. We got slapdash, make it happen. The people who actually took a step back and said, okay, why are we measuring? What are we trying to measure? What are we trying to improve? Those will be the events we will identify as the data elements we want to collect. So it's in any kind of measurement, the most important thing is, why are you measuring?
And what can you do with it if you do measure it? Is it actionable data or is it just data?
Yeah. I mean, if the why is, I want to see how many likes I get, I want to know how many people showed up at my homepage. Well, great. But why?
Right. And where they go from there, and how much money do they generate? And right, what was the conversion path, or what was the bounce path?
And eventually, the final answer, the correct answer, is customer lifetime value. And that is that combination of cost of acquisition, margin of product sold, loyalty of customer. That's what matters, right? What is the profitability of each customer? And how do we unpack that backwards back to advertising? So if I say, why are you measuring? And the first answer they give is customer lifetime value. It's like, oh yeah, we can work together.
And a lot of people don't measure, but should. What is the first product or the one product that was purchased by those that created the highest lifetime value, right? You might have 100 products, but there's one product in particular that is connected to those customers that generate the highest lifetime value. If you know that, then obviously you can promote and push that product to generate more LTV from more customers. And then start to look at the profile of those people that did in fact buy that product. What's different about those people versus the people that didn't buy it? And what path do they take to find and buy that product?
This is where we're moving from measurement to analysis. Analysis says, you just identified two segments: people who purchased, people who did not purchase. But there's actually as many segments as you can imagine. So let's pick a practical number of segments, 10. Let's look at people. Where did they come from? How long did they stay? What did they do? How often did they come back? What did they buy? And cluster them and put them in 10 different buckets. And if we treat them differently, so for instance, the people in the upper end of the buckets, the happy big bucket, these people are 95% most likely to purchase. So don't put any friction in their way. Don't offer them any free shipping. They don't need it. Don't give them a 10% discount. They don't need it. You're just giving away margin. But boy, make sure that they get to the front of the line in customer service. And then the next bucket, well, maybe they need free shipping. And the next bucket is free shipping and a discount. And the next bucket is, oh, we'll give you free stuff. You buy 3 of these, we'll throw in something extra. And then the other buckets are, oh, these people are not buying. They're not profitable. Where did we get them? And can we stop advertising there, please?
Right. Let's get rid of those people. Exactly. Yeah, it's almost derivative of the RFM, right? Recency, frequency, monetary value, and putting them into the right buckets, which then, of course, is a road to LTV. So yeah, it's exciting stuff when you really dig into it, but you have to know how to measure it. And that's where GA4 comes in, right? GA4 is a very powerful tool if you know how to use it, how to apply it, what you're measuring, why, and what you're going to do with that data. And like you said in the beginning, that's a big missed opportunity. A lot of people just never set it up properly, and therefore they don't use it because they really don't get valuable information out of it.
So I guess that my question for that would be, what about people that don't know? If you don't know what you don't know, how do you find the information to know? Like, as an expert in this space, if a business owner is trying to find the right information, where do they go to learn the basics? Because GA4 is quite complicated.
The owner of a company should not learn how to use GA4. You need analysts. You need somebody to implement it, somebody to optimize it, somebody to make sure the data is flowing properly, somebody to take that data and combine it with other data that the company is collecting and hand that over to somebody who can build statistical models. And then we have the analyst that talks to the business owner to find out what the business problems are, turns that into a data question, hands that data question to a data scientist who, using well-collected and cleaned and combined data, builds a model that comes up with an answer that the analyst can go back to the business owner and say, and therefore here's the recommendation. Best analogy is going to the doctor's office. I'm going to go visit the doctor and I'm going to say, it hurts when I do this. And they're going to do tests and they're going to take blood samples and urine samples. And then that's going to go in the back room. And they're technologists back there who are running the machines. They don't come back and say, here are your numbers. Well, I didn't go to medical school. I don't know what these numbers mean. Is it good? Do I need surgery? What are you telling me? So all of those things that you need somebody to do this, and this, it takes a village. This is not a simple, Google Analytics on page 2 will tell you everything you need to know. Every company is different. And the Google Analytics of yore was generic. That's why they said, okay, we recognize that every company is unique, so you have to define your own events. The analyst sits down with the business owner or the stakeholder and says, what events should we collect? And the business owner goes, I have no idea. What are you talking about? It's like, what's important to you? And that is different for every company at every moment in time. Maybe it's more important that we launch new products faster, that we take over new territory, that we come up with a strategy to compete better, that we figure out how to hire better people. What is top of mind will tell us what to measure. And then we can give you advice. What does the data suggest you do in order to accomplish that goal? This is not, let's give this magic tool to a business owner and expect them to run with it. This is an 18-wheeler. It can move a lot of goods a long distance, but you need a professional driver.
Yeah, and that's really well said. Thanks, Jim. Average website owners can say, well, I need either more traffic or higher conversion rate, right? Conversion rate on what? What's your margin? What are your highest profitable products? What products drive the greatest LTV, the greatest retention, the greatest frequency, the greatest upsells, cross-sells, resells, referrals? What has the lowest return rates, the highest customer satisfaction rates? How long is a piece of string, right? Because increasing conversion rates could drive you out of business if, in fact, it's increasing conversion rates on low margin products and you're not making enough net profit at the end of the day to keep the lights open. So if you've got a 5% margin and you're selling a lot of them, you may not make enough money to stay in business, but that 50% margin or 80% margin product that you really want to sell never came on the radar because all you said was increased conversion rate. On what? To whom?
If you come to me and say, can you help us increase traffic? I can say, sure. If I double your traffic, will you give me a giant bonus? Yes. Okay, great. I can do that by putting out ads all over the internet that say free stuff, click here. You'll spend a lot on advertising. You'll have to pay me my big bonus and it won't help your business at all. Oh, no. We want conversion. Oh, well, that's fine. No, you know what? Better than conversion. We want revenue. Cool. If I double your revenue, will you give me a big bonus? Yes. Great. Sell $20 bills for $10. Revenue through the roof. Conversion, revenue through the roof. Great. Well, no. What we want is we want to sell more of this product. Great. Lower your price. None of those are leading up to customer lifetime value, which is margin.
Yeah. They're important questions because you're going back to, you need a specialist, you need an expert, you need a pilot. You need a pilot driving that GA4 because, as you said, you've got to have the analysts and the data scientists to make sense of the numbers. And then the analysts to, put in the right events, track the right events for the right reasons, for the right outcomes, because traffic isn't going to solve it. Conversion isn't going to solve it, but conversion on the right traffic, on the right products with the right margins, the right LTV is going to solve it. So you've got to be asking those questions like the doctor does when you come in, right? Well, does it hurt when you do that? What about this? Does it hurt more in the morning or at night? What about this? What about that? If you're not asking the questions, you really don't know what you're analyzing. You really don't know what you're trying to solve for. And GA4 is amazing at solving problems if you know the questions to ask and what it is you try to solve for. And I think that's the problem.
With one caveat, and this is a shout out to a company that I am not paid to promote, but there's a company called Pee Wick Pro, and they are a competitor to Google Analytics. And the reason I mention them is the primary purpose of the piece of software called Google Analytics is to get you to buy more Google advertising. Don't be fooled.
Yeah.
This is not your data. This is their data that they are showing to you, so you will buy more Google advertising. Facebook does the same thing. Amazon does the same thing. The folks at Pee Wick Pro, it's the same kind of tool. It takes the same effort to implement, but it's your data that you can slice and dice any way that you want and combine it with all kinds of other data. So I'm end of non-recompensed commercial.
That's a good point. And I've heard this from analysts and experts that say, if you just look at Google data, it'll basically say that Google is responsible for all of your traffic and all of your revenue. If you just look at Facebook data, Facebook is responsible for all of your traffic and all of your revenue, Amazon, et cetera, et cetera. Pick your poison. So that's a really good point because they are self-serving.
Understand that if you live in the Google universe and you are doing Google advertising and you're heavy into the search and Google Analytics is a great tool to combine with all the other Google things that you do, but don't think that it's going to tell you the truth about the rest of the world.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They're very, very one-sided, very myopic. So Pee Wick Pro, that's the tool that will give you a objective, non-filtered view on your.
It's your data.
It's your data, and it's not self-serving or trying to sell you on any particular platform, tool, channel. It's a good tip.
As an owner of a business, with your advice for me not to learn Google Analytics, how do I find a good analyst? What would be your advice there?
First of all, your advertising agency will give you reports. And that's like your 12-year-old writing their own report card. It's a little awkward. They're going to tell you that the work they're doing for you is terrific. So what's happened is there's a whole ecosystem of boutique analytics consultants, boutique analytics agencies. So I said it takes a village. They have put together a village and they work for lots of different clients. You need to match the agency with your business, and that's going to depend on size. So, and not size of the agency, but size of their clients. I'm thinking of one agency that has, I think, 7 people total, and their clients are major corporations, and they do heavy lifting, serious data science. I'm thinking of another agency that's 12 people, and they primarily deal with small and medium-sized businesses because they have very different problems. A large corporation has data scientists. They have a data center. They have plenty of money to throw at a problem. Smaller business, all kinds of different constraints. And what is the most important thing turns out to be a corporate culture question more than an industry question. So I would say that you go out, you find, first question, do you feel personally that you would rather deal with somebody local that you can take out to lunch and you can look in their eyes and you can have meetings, or that's not important, it's okay to work remote? There's one dividing line. The next dividing line is, as with any service, you get referrals. So what is it like working with that agency? How proactive are they? Do you think that they are working on for your benefit, or are they just doing what you tell them to do? I want my external analytics agency to be proactive. I want them to come to me and say, hey, we just saw this thing. These numbers don't make sense. Can you explain what's happening? Or we have a hypothesis that this is what's going on, and we'd like to run that test. We'd like to figure out how we can optimize your goals against your budget. That's the kind of agency you're looking for.
Yeah. Somebody that doesn't
Right.
have to get in the game with, running your ads, that automatically creates bias, right?
Yeah, that's great advice.
It's also my advice for advertising agencies. They should not hire analysts because, again, it takes a village. If you're an advertising agency of 30 people, 50 people, you want to do analytics seriously, you have to hire another 10 people. That doesn't make any sense. You partner with a boutique analytics agency who can come in and work with you and for you with your clients.
Yeah. Well, it's back to your doctor analogy, right? You go to your general MD for the initial checkup, and then they refer you to an expert because they're certainly not going to do open heart surgery as a general medical practitioner if that's in fact what you need.
We hope not. Yeah.
We hope not if they do as malpractice. So where is attribution headed? There's been a lot of talk, a lot of things going on. Where is it going, Jim?
Well, it starts with the great promise that we'll be able to capture all this information and it will tell us something that is impossible to know. And that is, did the billboard on the highway and the radio ad have an impact on sales? Did the banner ad that we put out on the internet and the social media posts that we make and the content marketing that we're doing have an impact on sales? The fact is, it's all of the above. And you can't know about the billboard unless you put it up in one territory and don't put it up in another geographic territory, and everything else remains equal, which it never does. Attribution is a pipe dream, writ large, the hope, the dream. Now, when you take media mix modeling, which is top down, we spent this much in television, this much in radio, this much in digital, this much in print, and then look at it quarter to quarter, you learn things, provided you're spending millions of dollars on advertising. But the idea of being able to say this thing that we did had an actual impact on the result is extremely difficult. But people are trying to solve it left and right. So digitally, we can take the referral code, the UTM code from an inbound link. They clicked on that ad. They clicked on that mention. They clicked on that link in the blog post. That we can collect. And over time can build a picture of what we think can happen. And then it's all about testing. What if we do a little bit more of this and a little less of that? And did it make a difference?
So it's more directional than exact.
Oh boy, you nailed it right there. All of it is directional.
Yeah.
When I first got into analytics, I was talking to my brother-in-law, who's a CPA, and I said, "Boy, it must, the work that you're doing, it must be refreshing to have data that's so clear. You've got income and expenses, and it's black and white." And he laughed for 5 minutes straight. And I said, "Why is that funny?" He said, "You know how much 2 and 2 is?" I said, 4. He said, "No. How much do you want it to be?" That's what a CPA does, right?
Yeah.
So even straight math is directional. And then we've got this weird total disconnect between what we imagine the computer is doing, which is tabulating, capturing, tabulating, calculating everything just so in a binary way. It's on or it's off. We're talking about human psychology. Why did they click there? You look at technologies like eye tracking, right? What were they looking at? And let's match up eye tracking with mouse movement. So they were looking up in this corner and the mouse moved over there and then they clicked on that. And then they looked over here and they stared at that thing. That must be important. No. The thing they just saw was important. Their eye traveled over there while they were thinking about it. They weren't looking at it. They were thinking about that thing. Psychology, you can't. Yes, it's directional.
Yeah, there's no black and white. I have a quick story on that. A friend of mine, I called him Dr. Doctor, he had a PhD in business administration and a PhD in applied statistics. And he worked for the pharma industry to validate their tests. And he said, the funny thing about statistics and these tests is I can create any outcome you want, and it will be peer reviewed and pass peer review. Back to your story about what do you want it to be? And he said, that's really what the question is. What do you want it to be? Because they can make those statistics come out any way you want. And he would show me some examples. I'm like, wow, this is crazy that you can literally have a peer reviewed statistical analysis come out with vastly different outcomes depending on the outcome you desired. And so there you go. Is it black and white? Not in your life.
Never. Nothing is. And that's the frustrating thing about being a human. We want definitive answers. And the truth is, it's a spectrum. And I don't care what the question is. It's a spectrum. And there are too many variables to know for sure that if you do this, that will happen. But we build these mental models of binary choices, or you couldn't get along in life. It is how the human mind works. But, the old saying, if you line up all the economists in the world, they'll all be pointing in different directions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it kind of goes back to, in the teens, everybody's getting obsessed with last click attribution. And everybody said, well, that's the last click, so we're going to put all our money there. And then the funnel dried up. Why?
Right.
Because nobody was looking at what was causing people to get to that point in the journey. And so then it's like, well, this doesn't work. Well, the advertisers told you that, but your Google Ads people wanted you to think that Google Ads was driving 100% of your revenue. They forgot to ask the question, what got people to actually do the search query to begin with?
Yeah. What was their intent?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a funny world. You can't get obsessed with attribution, especially last click attribution, because if you're not asking how did they get there, what questions are they asking, what was their search, what was their intent, what was their problem, what was their pain point, what were they looking to solve, you'll never get any information from that last click attribution.
Well, speaking of attribution and analytics, what are your thoughts with Google phasing out third-party cookies? Where do you see that going?
They're not phasing them out. They've changed their mind yet again and pushed, kicked that can down the road.
Did they? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, they backed off.
Yeah, there's some specific answers that are kind of generic and global that continue to apply. The first one is search engine optimization. Google has thousands of PhDs who are trying to figure out how to make their search results make the searcher happy. And so the more they click on it, must make them happy. Great, we'll show that to more people. And instead of trying to fool the algorithm, the solution is make your website better for humans, because Google is trying to imitate what humans do. They're trying to measure what humans do. If your website is better for humans, you will do better in the search rankings, and you won't have to spend all that time and money going down that rabbit hole. By the same token, and now we're editing out this part. I literally lost the thread. Your statement was, remind me?
It was about third-party cookies.
Thank you. So same thing happens with third-party cookies. There is a standard statement, which is the most valuable thing you have is your first-party data. So third-party cookies are great if you want to try to figure out advertising, et cetera. But when people show up at your website, what do they do? And who are they? What can you do to get them to reveal themselves? Offer them something in exchange, information exchange. Amazon in 1995 said, tell us who your favorite authors are. And I thought, well, great. So you can spam me. I don't need more spam. No. In return, we'll tell you when they publish a new book, you'll be the first on your block to know about it. You can pre-order it at a discount. That's not spam. That's a service. It's like, sign me up, right? So it's an exchange of information. If you offer me something interesting and valuable, I will give you my email address. I will answer questions about my preferences. I'll change settings on an app. I'll reveal all kinds of stuff about myself in exchange for value. That's great. You do that and you have first-party data. That is the most valuable thing that you have. is what you know about your customers. Then you can use it to find more people like them.
So you may have already answered this, Jim, but what should the e-commerce executive be focused on today?
Well, number one is customer centricity. Listen to your customers, ask them questions about their experience, but keep track of what's happening with generative AI. Generative AI represents such a large shift in computing that it requires us to rethink how we are interacting with our customers. So here's where we're headed, like over the horizon, what's coming. Eventually, every website, the user interface, the drop-down menus, the choices that are made by the human with a mouse or a touch is going to go away. And it will be replaced by an avatar that will say, "Hi, welcome to the website. How can I help you?" And it will be a verbal conversation. I'm looking for this kind of article in clothing, that size, this color. What have you got? Well, tell me more. What price range are you looking in? Is this for winter or summer? What is the color scheme? Can you take a picture of the color scheme of your wardrobe and upload it to me, please? That will be user interface.
Yeah.
E-commerce people today need to start realizing that, thinking about it, so that eventually, and it's going to be all at once, companies will come along and saying, "Yeah, we have the technology to do that. How do you want to implement it?" It's like, I haven't thought about it. I don't know, is the wrong answer.
So filters and sorting might be going by the wayside with AI taking over and basically prompting, asking the question, tell me what's your body type? How tall are you? What's your weight? Whatever, right? What climate do you live in? Do you live in the South? Do you live in the North?
Tell me what your zip code. If you're willing to give me your zip code, I can tell you what the weather appropriate. Oh, yeah, sure. Here's my zip code. Well, heck, I just handed over another datum.
Right. Do you have any favorite brands or materials? Are you allergic to synthetics, wool? Right. Whatever.
Do you prefer cats or dogs? There is a point at which that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because the people who are left-handed and live in this zip code and like dogs tend to buy more of this than more of that.
Right.
And so it almost doesn't matter what you're collecting as long as it is with full consent.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating. That's going to be an interesting user experience. Talk about user centricity, right? If you can remove those friction points and filters and sorting and search bars are no longer relevant. It could be an option, of course, but if somebody wants to go the super verbal, easy route, just tell me what you're looking for and let me serve up 5 options.
And then I'll go way back in history for advice for e-commerce owners. Your website needs to be either and or fun, interesting, or useful. Fun is hard to do. Humor, games, that's all challenge. Interesting is okay, but you end up being a media company. And if what you want to be is a publisher and keep the most interesting thing top of mind, you go down that path. But useful wins the day. Useful is the mortgage interest rate calculator. Useful is the how soon can I retire? Useful is what kind of toner do I need for this printer? Useful is, well, Amazon. Useful is, hi, Jim, welcome back. What do you want to buy again? I can't tell you how useful that is. It's like, I had this thing, I used it up or it wore out, and I scroll through, yeah, that one. I just want the same damn thing again. Thank you.
Right.
Made my life easier.
Reorder that.
Useful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So true. So true. Wow. Yeah. Great information, Jim. Scott, I think you've got the $1 million question today.
Yeah, I do. So at the end of our podcast, we asked the $1 million question. As an expert in your industry, what's one actionable strategy that you would recommend that could have the biggest impact for an e-commerce owner right now or an e-commerce brand?
Actually have conversations with your customers, asking open-ended questions. It's not a survey. It's not numerical. It's, do you remember what brought you to my website? What problem were you trying to solve? What solution were you looking for? What was your experience like? What do you wish we had that we don't have? What have you found on our competitors' websites that you like better? Can you think of anything that would help you recommend us to your friends? What could we do that would get you to mention us on social media? And open up the conversation and just leave it, let them talk and talk and talk. And on the one hand, you'll get the emotional response. It's not on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 7. Because, well, it's a 7 or it's a 7 are very different answers.
Right.
But you'll also make customers for life. You're asking me my opinion? Ooh, you must respect me. So that's part one. Part two is look at the confluence of what are your highest margin products and your highest lifetime value customers. And everything else that you do should be in support of those products and those customers.
That's $1 million answer for sure.
Yeah, that's a great answer.
That's a $2 million answer. What I love about that answer, Jim, is you are a hardcore data guy. And you've written many books about it. Obviously, you started the Data Analytics Summit and Association, et cetera. But you recognize the importance of emotion because emotion drives action. There's no action without emotion. And the fact that you're getting deep into the emotion behind what did you like? What caused you to come to our website? How can we do this better? What did you like about that? That's emotion. That's not quantifiable. That's not analytics. That's not attribution. That's getting inside the head, the true emotional drivers of what made something happen.
All the numbers will tell you what happened. None of the numbers will tell you why.
Exactly. And that's what I love about that answer, because so many people get obsessed with the what. They never bother to ask why.
Really interesting YouTube video, Rory Sutherland from WPP talking about when you have a number, you can blame the number, the total, the computer, the calculation said, this is what we should do. So that's what we did. It's not my fault. And that leaves out psychology completely.
Rory Sutherland is genius. Roger Dooley, obviously, Robert Cialdini, right? All of the behavioral scientists, behavioral economics really drives the data. And when you back up and understand that it's the behavioral economics, behavioral science, behavioral design philosophies and strategies and principles, back to Rory Sutherland, that's what you got to understand, because that's advertising, that's marketing, that's motivation, that's removing friction, that's answering those unasked questions that are below the surface in the subconscious that most people aren't even aware of.
My unsolicited advice for anybody with kids going to college saying, what should they study? Because artificial intelligence will totally change education, and it will change how we live and how we work, et cetera. The most important thing you can study is the humanities. So I got my degree in English literature, which is essentially studying humans, but psychology, sociology, dive deep into what makes humans tick, because the technology, it's going to take care of itself.
But if you don't understand the human mind, then you're stuck. You're lost.
That's right.
Yeah. It's the soft science. It's the soft skills, right? I mean, back to How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. One of the best books ever written.
And if you're going to read that, which you should, please do. But right after that, read The Prince by Machiavelli. They will look, the two of those side by side will open your eye.
Wonderful. And Influence by Dr. Cialdini.
Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, a very enlightened conversation, which we completely anticipated. Sorry I missed the Analytics Summit, but our Conversion Summit got canceled. And that's where I was going to be speaking. And I was looking forward to meeting you because you were going to be at the same event in Phoenix in June. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So another time we'll have to meet in person.
Well, the Marketing Analytics Summit is going to happen again in June in Phoenix in 2025. So I encourage you and your millions of listeners to join me.
We'll have to be there, right, Scott? We'll go get a selfie with Jim.
There we go.
Okay. Well, thanks again, Jim Sterne, for joining us. Tell us how people can get a hold of you and how they can follow you and get to know your work better.
My website is at targeting.com and for target marketing. And I'm on LinkedIn pretty much all the time. I post there frequently. And public speaking. Find me at a conference between now and the end of the year: Chicago, Cleveland, London, Munich, San Diego.
Well, thanks again, Jim. We really appreciate it. And by the way, the contact information, we'll put it all in the speaker notes or the presentation notes. We've got your website, your LinkedIn, everything is there. We'll put that in the notes. So, Jim, thanks again. We really appreciate your time. We know you're super busy writing books and speaking and consulting and coaching and doing everything you do. And we love your insights and the combination of the psychology with the analytics. And thanks for joining us for another exciting episode of the e-commerce traffic and conversion podcast. And we'll see you next time.
Take care.